Championship week is here. NASCAR heads west to crown a Cup Series champion. On this episode of NASCAR Inside the Race, Todd and I are going to look back at Martinsville, Blaney's big win, and just how the Championship 4 moved forward. On the other side of the fence, we'll look at the 4 eliminated from contention and see just what went wrong in their round of 8. And then the tail of the tape, we'll look at strengths and weaknesses and the opportunity for the 4 still alive.
Ryan Blaney is going to win his way into the Championship 4. He wins at Martinsville.
Yeah, baby. Let's go, fellas. Let's go. Awesome job, man. Let's go race for a championship.
Todd, I'm going to give you the credit. You said it would be a playoff driver. I think I agreed, but you definitely gave me a player. You actually gave me a smaller list. You said it was going to be the 12, the 24, the 11 of the 19. You were right. It was Blaney to victory lane.
Yeah. You look at these situations, and they're going to elevate. And really, we saw the 12 and 11 be the 2 best cars. 2 of those 4 cars, they battled it out. And Jonathan Hasser, Ryan Blaney put together a great race.
So, dare I say calm for Martinsville? Not on Saturday. We're not going to get into the Xfinity Series absolute slugfest, but on Sunday, a relatively calm short track race. But I was okay with it. I thought it was a great test of who deserved to advance.
Yeah, I definitely did. And I felt like the temperature being up and the new tire that Goodyear brought, a lot of rubber laid on the racetrack. We saw cars have to move around lanes. We saw a lot of racing going on. And you saw 2-tire calls at times. We saw a lot of things we haven't seen at Martinsville, but a great race.
Well, let's remind everybody how we were heading into Martinsville. So this is leaving Miami. Larson and Bell were already locked in. When you look at their Martinsville day, it doesn't really shock me. They were okay. They didn't make any enemies. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to Phoenix. They can all say that they're not. They are. And a kind of secondary thought of Martinsville. And they had decent runs. Something that carries you through, and they didn't make any enemies. They're focused on Phoenix.
Ryan Blaney came in at plus 10. Mind you, all 4 that were above stayed above. I don't ever want to say simple or easy, but was this win as clear as the best car won?
Yes, and they executed. They executed all day long.
So the best car didn't give them a chance to lose.
They did.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we seen the best car lose because they didn't execute? Because they had a speeding penalty. I mean, Ryan Blaney had that at Texas earlier this year. Top 10 run at that point, cost himself a position with a penalty. So they executed well and put the whole race together, and they didn't get a late caution that caused the Martinsville chaos we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it was an impressive long run to run down Almirola, who had a good run, by the way, used some strategy, but definitely had a pretty good car. To go to victory lane, I don't want to brush off the win, but Blaney ran so well he didn't have to win, which is why I don't think we're talking about this like it was a walk-off from below the cut line. He came in above, and even if he runs second or third, he advances.
Well, yes, and on top of that, he was kind of given a gift by William Byron that allowed him to feel extra comfortable with it, with the points position, because he got himself to the point where he was going to be the points guy that came through if Denny had won or Martin.
So what did we learn about William Byron in the 24 this weekend?
We found kryptonite. They've looked invincible. If you look at the round before, first, second, or something like that,
yeah.
and they've looked good. They had an off weekend. I think you have to look at it that William Byron, Rudy Fugle, they were atrocious to start the race. They put the work in to come out 13th.
I couldn't put my finger on this duo and how they were winning 6 races. And I don't mean to say that in a negative, because they're fast, they execute. I mean, they win in all the right ways. But I think it was really on display on Sunday, right? You had a driver with no helmet blower cooking. I mean, he got out of the car. This is a young driver.
He made comments that he couldn't
whipped.
see for 50 laps to go.
I mean,
it was blurry.
Just completely exhausted.
Yeah.
And Rudy Fugle, on the radio, my assessment is he's very general-like at times. We're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And with about 200 to go, then about 150 to go, we started to see a different side of their relationship, right? He got in the boat with William. That's what I saw. William Byron was not on the racetrack with the only guy with an oar. He, by radio, put him and his team in the car with him. And even William said in the post-race, he goes, he needed that to get through that last 50 laps.
William asked at one point, he made a comment, what am I supposed to do with that? And Rudy came back, said, nothing.
Yeah.
Just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Like, at that point, I think he realized that the team was behind him and he had to carry it.
Either way, Larson, Bell, and now Blaney advanced with a win. Byron on points. I'm impressed with this championship 4. I think it's going to be a great battle in Phoenix.
Oh, it's a phenomenal battle. I think these 4 are, and we'll get through that, but I think this is a great race. I don't think there's one that stands out. I don't think there's one that looks like a deficit. We've got 4 contenders.
All right, everybody starts the year. They want to make the playoffs. Then you want to go from 16 to 12, 12 to 8, 8 to 4, which I think is by far the hardest round. 4 were unable to do it. Let's review who was in and who's out. Larson, Bell, Blaney in with wins. Byron in on points. Hamlin, Truex, Reddick, Buescher out. I wish I had more for Buescher, but really I would have put a highlight on the screen and I'd show you where they messed up. But, you know, I thought they had an okay round of 8, and it takes better than okay. It's as simple as that for Buescher, right? Had decent finishes and decent cars, not great finishes and great cars. I wish I had more of a story, but that's really what it is.
It is. And honestly, that's something to celebrate and build off of. For where RFK was 2 years ago and the momentum they brought forward, he didn't have a great round. He did finish 10th or 11th at Vegas. That's not going to get you through. He was weak at Homestead, and this wasn't a great racetrack for him.
So you say weak. I think that's what happened to the other one, and it's 2 areas, right? So when I look at Reddick's this guy right here. So when I look at his kind of points makeup, the total of them all, red at the top and the white at the bottom. So no big shocker. The 1.5 miles in the middle, the blue of Las Vegas, the yellow of Miami. If you compare them to other drivers, a chunk of points, pretty good runs. A good regular season, but not a great when you look at Truex or Hamlin or Byron. And Martinsville just wasn't the performance they had to have.
First year he's come over to 2311, learning a new crew chief. I mean, this is kind of what you would expect out of them. They've got to build their way through. They've made it to the final 8, but yeah, 1.5 miles, they look good.
I'm laughing because you're putting sugar on the bottom 2. I want to see how you're going to put sugar on these middle 2 right here. I want to see how you're going to be. I know, I agree with the 45 and the 17 assessment that the round of 8 was good. There's no way the round of 8 is okay for the 19 and the 11. I mean, it is, it's sports, but that is not their goal. They aren't going to feel good about making the round of 8.
No, these are seasons teams that expect to be championship contenders. And you and I both had both of these cars going to the Final 4. So the expectations are there. I don't think either one of us had the 17 or 45, so that's where sugar came from.
So where did it go wrong for Truex?
When the playoffs started.
It really had, I mean, okay, what do we want to talk about? Let's start at the most recent. Martinsville, speeding, jack drops. 2 strikes. Okay,
yes.
We'll go back a race. Miami?
Motor
Yellow.
failure.
Well, it's, okay, yeah.
Motor failure.
Motor failure in the end was the big, that's a good point.
I
keep
feel like
talking about the yellow catching him in the bad pit stop, but to your point, if the motor doesn't break, that has to cost him 15-ish, 20-ish points. And if you come into Martinsville,
different position to have
around
a
the cut line is different. You race different. I think that's the point to talk about.
I feel like both of these cars have failures that they can look back at the round of 8.
It's right here. It's the yellow for both of them.
Yep.
Right there in the middle.
And it happened on the same caution.
I know. It was like a bad 7 minutes for Toyota.
It was.
So let's talk about Truex, because it was atrocious and everybody's going to talk about the mistakes. But, because I think you and I agree on this. No motor failure. They come into Martinsville single digits. I'm not going to guess. Plus or minus 5 of the cut line. That absolutely changes the look of Martinsville.
I think it may even change whether he speeds or not. I think the anxiousness of needing to win your way through from pit stall 1, you try to get a little bit more. If he has a solid day and recovers and just doesn't have the motor failure, I think he's sitting here where he's just racing. And you let him race, he's going to race just like Blaney. He's going to be really good in the long run.
So I'm not in a business of making excuses, but for Denny Hamlin, I'm having a really hard time finding something other than a power steering failure eliminating him out of the championship 4. I mean, he's top 3 or 4 in playoff points. He's a top single-digit 3-4 car at Miami when the power steering failure happened. Like, is it really that simple for the 11? One failure?
I feel like it is. I feel like the way this plays out, you have to win, or there's one position on points. If you've got 3 winners, which we had, there's one position. So you have to be elite, and they didn't. They had a parts failure, and I hate it for them, but that's just the nature of what this playoff round is.
Now there are 4. Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, William Byron. You know, we talked a lot like we could rank different areas of the teams, but I think a better way is, what if we set out how they could win the championship. Let's blueprint what we think their strengths are, maybe their weaknesses. Let's start with Kyle Larson. He's the only driver north of 330 starts, 23 wins, second appearance, and let's not forget the first time there he did win the championship in 2021. Give me the reason the 5 can win the championship. What's their blueprint?
I think the first thing we've seen out of the last 2 winners, they won the first race of the 3rd round and had 3 weeks to prepare. I think that's a huge advantage. That's when we won a championship 2018, we won Martinsville, which was the first race of that round. It just lets you get ahead.
Let you get ahead and lets you highlight what I think is their biggest advantage, and this is going to sound rudimentary. They're the fastest. They've been the fastest all year long. They have only won 4 races this season. And I could say only because they've been the fastest car in 10, 11, 12 of the races. Now, the negative is what happened to those other 8.
This is checkers or wreckers.
It is checkers or wreckers for Kyle Larson. So I have his blueprint as I truly believe that he will make the other drivers uncomfortable with his raw speed, and we're going to see it in practice. We're going to see it in qualifying. Just you and I have lived and died by that timing board. Mm-hmm. When you look there and the guy you have to beat is fast, 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 that does wear on you. So I think that's a strength. The other thing I have for him is he has a good pit crew with firepower. So I don't think they make a lot of mistakes, and they have game-changing ability. That's how he won Vegas. That is a big contributor to the championship he won last time.
And most of this crew that was on his championship run in 21 that really took a guy that I thought was the 4th best car and got him off pit road with the lead and won the championship, they're still together. So I think that's another one of the definite positives that this 5 team has going.
All right. What's your concerns? Is it the wreckers part of the checkers and wreckers?
I think he makes too many mistakes. And I wouldn't say that he's a closer late on restarts. If there's late cautions, his raw speed is incredible, but I don't think it races really well when it has to.
I'll give you that. I think, so you and I are saying the same thing in a different way, which is I think he's so fast because I'm not going to say 100% or over his head or anything. Mm-hmm. I think he has 1 gear. It's go. I think he's like the old lawnmower used to drive. It's you start it up and you put it in gear and it moves. And like, when he moves one way, and it's really impressive and really fast. Self-admittedly, last year when he was eliminated from the playoffs, he said he made too many mistakes. He, I think, has cleaned it up a little bit in the playoffs, but over the season, there's still a handful of mistakes. It's just a question if one shows up.
Another piece that I think kind of falls into this is he has a teammate in the Final 4. I think that splits HMS's focus.
So you look at that as a negative for the teams that are in.
I do.
Because Rick Hendrick has to love having 2 chances.
I think Rick loves it, but as a crew chief, I loved when my teammates got eliminated because the whole building was on my agenda.
All right, well, let's go to an organization that you know very well and an organization that has only 1 driver in it, and that is this last week's winner, right? Ryan Blaney. 29, kind of similar, a little over 300 starts, 10 wins. First chance to go out to Phoenix and race for a championship. And the strength for Blaney is the Phoenix numbers. The last 4 races he's been in the top 4. So for that reason, I like Blaney.
I think he wins last year if he's not out of the playoffs.
The race, you mean?
Yes. Yeah, I feel like
I can buy that.
I feel like he let Joey.
Yeah, like, hey man, you have more on the line than me.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. Momentum, I do think, is somewhat real.
I think he's been the best car the last 2 races.
I think we forget about Miami.
He was the best car at Miami on the long run.
Yeah.
It just took him too long to get going.
So I think they all wake up with momentum on Monday morning because they're in the championship 4. But look, you and I have won races. It always makes you feel good the next week to come back the winner. So that's real for sure. What's your concern for Blaney?
2 things I have. I think the pit crew doesn't have the top end speed.
I would agree with that. This is a diesel engine, man. They grind. They're there. They'll keep them in it.
They're not going to throw those 9.2s out.
Yeah.
They're going to throw 10.0s. Mm-hmm. And
which in the right race, that's all you need.
Yes, but if we get that what Kyle Larson won a championship with, where you have that caution with 20 to go and you got to go get it, I don't feel like the pit crew has the top end speed to do it. I think the other thing, they had to focus on Martinsville. They've not had the luxury of looking forward.
Oh, last one in, you're saying. We've had 2 winners. Byron had a little bit of an advantage. So last one in definitely could be. Okay, I like that. Should we go to the next? Now, Bell. Interestingly enough, while he's not the youngest, he's the least experienced at the Cup level with 143 starts, 6 wins, which doesn't seem like a lot, but let's remind everybody, 3 of those are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
2 a year ago, 1 this year. Second time in the championship 4. For me, that is a big strength for Bell. Been here, felt it, done it, knows what media day feels like on Thursday, knows what practice media attention feels like on Friday. The other big one, and this is the big one, this is number 1 in Bell's camp, qualifying.
Oh, yeah.
He sat on 4 poles in the playoffs already. I believe the championship could very well be determined off pit road. Pit stall 1 is an advantage. I think Bell qualifying in the playoffs have to be considered an advantage.
And not only has Bell won 4 poles this year, outside of Talladega, Toyota's won every pole in the playoffs.
That's a good stat. I'm a little disappointed I didn't have that in all these papers over here. Really?
Yes.
All right, well, and he's the only Toyota in it.
When we talk about that late race restart or coming off a pit road, the chance and the opportunity, he and Adam Stevens have done a really good job qualifying. I think they could be a huge advantage to having pit stall 1.
Concerns?
I think the pit crew consistency. It's been a challenge for this program. And they swapped pit crews when they got to the playoffs, and this crew hasn't really done anything better than the crew before.
Listen, I'm just going to put it on Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole. I'm sorry. Truex wasn't good. They made changes. They weren't good again. They've slipped from the 54 to the 20. The personnel moves all around. I'm just saying the pit department is the weakest part of Joe Gibbs Racing. There's one other fact that I think is the weakness. It just comes down to the numbers, and I don't know how else to say it, that Larson, Blaney, Bell, and Byron have been in 6 Phoenix races together. Christopher Bell has never been the first or the second driver of those 4.
And last year, I would say he was probably the weakest of the championship 4. And the other piece I question is, with the 11 and 19 not making it through to the championship 4, is there an emotional letdown at JGR?
Or the opposite. I got a question for you. You mentioned pit crew. Do you put a super team together?
I don't know that you do it for one race. We saw it happen. They made changes on the 19 this week, and ultimately one of those guys made a mistake. So I think you took the group that was 3rd best on the regular season and put them here. You keep them together.
Man, I'm torn. I don't know the right answer. I don't know the right answer. Well, let's talk about the man himself. 6 wins on the season. I mean, that means something. 6 times he's best the entire field.
In the spring Phoenix race, he won.
So I think pit crew's a strength. I think they are more consistent than Larson. Maybe just not that firepower, not that 9-1 stop. But wherever he comes in, I feel like he's going out.
I feel like their pit crew elevates and they're under pressure. When they get
Well,
to
that's
these
what you
late,
want at this moment.
Right? That's the piece. If I look through the season, I feel like in these 6 wins, they haven't dominated. They've put themselves in position to go win races. And maybe they don't have that top end speed that maybe the 5 team has, but I feel like this group as a whole, including William, because I think his rolling times are good, they figure out when pressure's on, they elevate.
Name a race other than Martinsville that they haven't been in.
Well, I had that down. They've put together the best playoffs outside of Martinsville, bar none.
So when I like my comparison here. So this season, 35 races. Mm-hmm. Of these 4 head-to-head, Kyle Larson has led the 14 times in finish, but he was second only 4. My point is it's either kind of feast or famine, right? You got Ryan Blaney kind of in the middle, Bell in the middle. Here's William Byron. He's been first 10 times and second 10 times of these 4. And what I mean is he's in the mix. So, it's almost the complete opposite of Larson, who's like firepower or bust. William is just like, hey, we're going to be really good everywhere we go, all the time. You know what's funny? You know who he reminds me of? The guy that made the 24 famous. Mm-hmm. He was good everywhere. I mean, that's why he was so dominant in those seasons of 36 races and all the different points and all the different things. He could kind of beat you everywhere you went. When you look at William Byron, name a track that he doesn't have a chance. But now this comes down to one race, but it's coming down to a race that he won in the spring.
Yeah, it is. And I think Rudy's not afraid to make the bold call if he needs to.
I agree with that.
I think that's a positive.
Don't let his starts in Cup fool you. He has been under the spotlight in whatever series he chose to take part in many, many times. All right, give me the weakness then. What is your concern for Byron?
I think the fact that they still had to focus to Martinsville because they're in a points battle, so they haven't had the chance to be 2 weeks out preparing for Phoenix. I think that's one. And back to what I said with the 5 team. I think there's a split agenda for HMS with 2 guys in it. I think that dilutes a little bit of the support you get.
I think he's the one that doesn't have the most obvious weakness to me. Now, I also probably can't give him the most obvious strength. Like I said, I think he's kind of the whole picture. Okay, what do I think Williams' obvious weaknesses are? Well, he's 25. So is that a fair weakness? I don't know, but he's the youngest. Does that bother? I mean, I don't know. That's an easy, low-hanging fruit. The reason I don't have that as a weakness is because I think he has seen Chase Elliott do it. He has seen Kyle Larson do it. He has been around Rick Hendrick, Chad Knaus, Jeff Gordon. These guys they're all Hall of Famers. The three I just listed are all in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's an impressive support cast.
And I would not use age. I'd use races.
Yeah, and he has over 200.
Really, he's well ahead of Christopher Bell.
Yeah. So either way, then, look, I'm not picking a championship favorite. I think we are literally going to come down to a moment. I think this is going to come down to a pit stop, a restart. There's going to be a moment to decide which one of these four do it.
I think Saturday will change how we feel the priority is, because which one of these ends up in pit stall 1?
Is that your instant favorite?
I think so.
It's mine. I mean, I'll say right now.
You made me think about that one because I hadn't thought all the way through it. But yeah, I think it is.
Let me do it a different way. If Larson wins the pole, is he your favorite?
With the pick crew he's got, I think he has to be.
It's going to be good. It's going to be a battle. It's out west. It's Phoenix Championship weekend. Truck champion on Friday, Xfinity champion on Saturday, and the Cup Series will crown its champion on Sunday afternoon on NBC. Coverage begins at 2 p.m. Eastern.